I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. Hey, 'cause all my life you have been faithful. Oh yes, you have. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything, oh Lord. Your goodness is running after,
there, Tupac talks about a rose that rose from what feels like certain defeat. Like, have you seen a flower bloom between sidewalk blocks? Like, tell me, how does it persevere and fight to live when it has no shot? Or maybe you've been to a garden and seen thousands of flowers in bloom. It's indeed beautiful, but these florid, they were placed in a space with healthy soil and clean. What makes the rose in concrete so visually consuming is that it protected its beauty despite life's harsh pruning. Like the day-to-day fight to keep on moving when everything's bruising and nothing's improving. Yet the rose never forgot about the beauty inside. It fought to survive. No matter how much the world tried to harm it, and trust me, it tried. Through the nights of pain when all it could do is cry. But today the rose stands tall to show that it thrives. See, I believe we are each in our own journey of growth. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's bleakly, sometimes it's both. And as you stand here today, people see that current version of you. What's not in view are the moments of pain that left you confused. Like, why don't I have the fairy tale story like everyone else? In the concrete, it's dirty, it's broken. I try to scream, but nothing comes out when I yell. No, but now the story you tell is of a floral ferocious. You fought to overcome your circumstances' prognosis. You are the rose that never gave up. So please know your journey and growth isn't one to be ashamed of. You stand here today as a product of perseverance and as a symbol of hope and love and a sign that fear does end. You will not be crushed by the pressures around you, but your presence is powerful. Your roots make the ground move. So Tupac, when you talk about the flower's dream to live and grow, just know you were right. These roses did bloom, and their beauty does glow. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I don't know how I'm going to follow Jeremiah, but thank you for setting me up for success. I appreciate it. Let's hear it for Jeremiah. Let's hear it for Jeremiah. So good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you to the closing ceremonies of Cycling for Change's Hope Cross Country Hope Tour 2025. Let's clap it out for Cycling for Change. Now, many of you are here because you have a good awareness about what human trafficking is. However, Cycling for Change stands by its mission to raise awareness and to raise funds to support others that have been impacted by human trafficking, which is a very challenging process that we're dealing with on a daily basis within our own lives, but we may not realize it. Through the amazing leadership of the Paulus family, which are over here, let's just clap it out for the Paulus family. Not only are we celebrating the conclusion of the 2025 Hope Tour, but we're also celebrating 10 years of Cycling for Change, which is a huge milestone. So congratulations to the Paulus family. So my name is Sandeep Kapoor. I serve as a board member for Cycling for Change, but before that, I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Santosh Paulus in my daytime job of Vice President for Emergency Medicine Addiction Services at Northwell Health. And through that process and through that relationship, I've learned that there is so much power that each one of us have, not just only as healthcare professionals, but more importantly, as community members. Today is not just a celebration of hope, but it's also a call to action to each one of you, to commit, to figure out what you're going to do differently when you leave these four walls, as you're walking, as you're running, as you're cycling. Really think about what you can do in your own industry that you work in your own homes that you live in, and in the communities that we all travel the roads in. With that said, we do have an amazing lineup, and we want to keep this on time as best as possible. We're about 10 minutes delayed, but we're going to bring it back to time so that our runners, our bikers, as well as our walkers can get started on the starting line. I'm going to ask Chris, who is our producer here, to play a recap video of what the 2025 Hope Tour was really all about. Chris?
We set out to Orange County, California on May 3rd, and with the collaborative efforts of many amazing local organizations, we have been making our way across the country again, this time with events in Orange County, Phoenix, Dallas, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and finishing in Long Island, where our journey began in the summer of 2015. For the past 10 years, human trafficking survivor experts and those with lived experiences have shaped the story of Cycling for Change and taught us how to tell the story and help teach others how to address this issue of public health. Their stories and their journeys of healing have given us the inspiration to believe change is possible because they are the face of hope. And yes, along the way, we have biked and walked in heat waves on trails and on roads and on the National Mall. We've had sweet conversations on our rides with family, friends, and strangers who became friends. Sharing our lives and hearing each other's stories of hope. It's why we started Cycling for Change 10 years ago. We were invited to be a part of the solution, and we wanted to invite others, because hope is only as real as the people doing the hard work of offering hope in tangible, lasting ways. And hope is what keeps us going. We may be making our last stop in Long Island at Shelter Rock Church in Syosset on our cross-country Hope Tour, but it's not the end of our work. You get to be a part of our story. You showed up to offer hope, and we're so glad you did, because hope changes everything.
As you just witnessed, the magic that this Hope Tour has brought around this country, from Orange County to Phoenix to Dallas to Atlanta to DC, and now in Syosset. Congratulations to Cycling for Change. Absolutely. Now, today would not be possible without the grateful sponsorship of so many, especially folks in this room, for showing up on a Saturday morning, but also by organizations that have found it relevant to take a stand during this crisis, this epidemic that we're dealing with. If I may, I'm just going to announce our formal sponsors: Malloy University, the Carbone family, Central Nassau Guidance and Counseling, Dr. Tochi Oroku Malaise, the Kiwanis Group, as well as Dantona Batteries, and last but not least, our partner that has been with us for the past 10 years, Northwell Health. So I mentioned the word power before, and I think what I'm about to share will resonate with all of you, but there is a reason why we feel empowered in our lives. And primarily it comes down to those that model for us. I have the privilege not only to serve as your host, but actually to introduce the next two gentlemen up here, who both have served as models for me. First and foremost, please allow me to introduce you to someone that you probably all already know, who is the founder of Cycling for Change, Dr. Santosh Paulos. Wanna come up with Santosh? And I know this is going to be meaningful for Santosh as it is for me as well, but a sincere model that has played a role not only in our professional but our personal careers. The CEO of Northwell Health, Mr. Michael Dowling.
Well, good morning, everybody. The rain is clearing out. I just want to start off by just expressing my sincere gratitude to you, Michael. 10 years ago, when we were starting and forming this organization, getting ready to bike across the country, a lot of people thought, what the heck are you guys doing? But
I thought the same thing.
I figured as much, yes. But yeah, I mean, at that time, it was a critical time for us to get off the ground, and you fully gave us support in so many ways and helped us to literally get on the ground and get moving. You do so much in this area to raise awareness, addressing issues of social justice, controversial issues like gun violence, all these different things, and you're involved in it. Legacy is important, and what does that mean to you in terms of social justice?
Well, first of all, let me say to you personally, your leadership has been absolutely extraordinary here, because it's very, very easy to do something good for a short period of time, but to continue to do something good and right for a long period of time is pretty exceptional. And like everybody in this room and everybody that's involved with you, to be able to continue to engage on something that is so important for over 10 years now, that in itself is an amazing achievement. So just my congratulations to you and to everybody who's involved. And just to your question, I'm a very, very strong believer that life is very short. It's a short journey. We're all here for a brief period of time. The question is that, irrespective of what your role is in an organization or in the community, the question I think that everybody has to ask all the time is, while you're on that journey of life, what do you want to do? Do you want to survive, just exist, or do something special to make a special difference? To make a difference, not just for yourself, but to make a difference for other people, especially people who are more vulnerable. And on the human trafficking issue, of course, we're dealing with people that are in unbelievable, vulnerable positions. So it's all about humanity. It's about decency. It's about caring about what you should care about. It's about basically looking at, where do you want to be tomorrow? What kind of a community do you want to be in? What kind of a community do you want to create? And that's fundamental to the purpose and the mission, of course, of Northwell overall. But for people who take on very, very specific issues like everybody here, and what you and your comrades have done, is you've made a difference. And the issues are large, complex, and difficult, but this is why you don't quit. Because each and every day you do something better for other people, and it provides purpose, it provides meaning. And without meaning and purpose, why be here? And so for me, it's the obligation that we all have, irrespective of where we sit on an organization or in the community, is what is our obligation and responsibility to do our best to educate, to inform, to broaden people's perspective, and to do things that improve the life circumstance of somebody else. It's an unbelievable, fortunate situation that we're all in. We just need more people doing it. And that's more important today than ever before, given the circumstances that we're living through today, given the politics and the policies, etc. But these are not political issues. These are humanity issues. These are humane issues. This is not about politics. Sometimes when I speak about this, people think I'm making a political statement. No, I'm not. I'm talking about values. What do you believe in? What do you care about? What do you want to contribute? What do you want to do? What difference do you want to make? When you leave this life, what do you want people to say about you? And I think we'd all like to say, I'll have people say, or our kids say, that we did our best, to the best of our ability, to make a difference. And that's what you've been doing. That's what you all are doing, so my congratulations.
Thank you for that. Thank you for those words. You mentioned our country right now. We're at a crossroads. There's so much kind of uncertainty. Unless the indigenous population call America Turtle Island, and unless all of us here came at some point, just tell us a little bit about your journey and what that was like coming to the U.S.
Well, let me start by saying that we're all immigrants.
Yeah.
We all came from someplace. Some people came years and years before, and people are still coming. Mm-hmm. Because people will always move from a circumstance where hope is less to a place where hope is more possible. That's where people will always move. So I left Ireland when I was 16 because I grew up in extreme poverty. And I was the oldest of a family, and I went to England, and I worked in steel factories south of London, mainly for two reasons. One is I wanted to help out my family at home that were in pretty difficult circumstance, and I dreamed of going to college. College was something I just always as a kid dreamed about, mainly because my mother was somebody that was very focused on education, even though she had no formal education herself. My mother was completely deaf, but one of the kindest, the person with the best sense of values that you could possibly imagine. So after I got into college in Ireland, but then I couldn't afford to continue paying for it, and I came to the United States. I came here by myself, no different than so many other people. I came here by myself, and I worked down on the docks in the west side of Manhattan for years, and I worked in construction for years. And I worked as a plumber putting in bathrooms and sinks up in the Bronx. I worked cleaning out bars in Queens. You do what you have to do. And every role and every job has value. There is no job that doesn't have value, that doesn't help you think about your role in the world. And then you get lucky. And I've been very, very fortunate. I ended up going to Fordham University. Ended up years later being asked to teach adjunct courses at Fordham. Then ended up years later as a full professor at Fordham University. Went to Columbia for a doctorate. Ended up then working in government. I was the head of Health and Human Services of the state of New York. I worked as the chief person for Governor Mario Cuomo when he was governor. I worked with him side by side for 12 years. Extraordinary experience. Everything is possible. But you make things possible. You believe. You aim high. You be optimistic. You be hopeful. The video a while ago talked about hope. You give oxygen to hope. That's what you're doing. For those people you engage in, you're giving them the possibility of seeing that there is something better, despite the circumstances that they're in. because you've got to believe on that which is better. So I ended up in government for 12 years, ended up then in the insurance business, and then got, again, lucky when I was recruited to come to North Shore University Hospital back in the early 90s. There's one hospital, was chief operating officer. We started to expand the health system. I became CEO 23 years ago. You know, so sometimes when I often look back of arriving in New York by myself, not knowing anybody here, when I was just shy of 18, and just thinking of how fortunate my life has been, I can almost feel like pinching yourself. You know, so my mother had a statement that she always used, is that wherever you are and whatever your circumstance is, you try never to allow it to limit your potential over time. So what you're doing, and with all of the people you're trying to help, is trying to get them, relieve them of the circumstance that they're in, and provide them with the hope and the expectation that over time their lives can be better. Because, you know, we live, you know, we're a world family. You know, it's not just the United States. I mean, this issue as you deal with is worldwide. We're a global family. There is an attempt today to kind of extract ourselves from the global world and just act as if we're all by ourselves. That can never happen. You can't separate from an interconnected world. And so what happens overseas affects us here. We're all interconnected. It's all about building the sense of community. So I've been very, 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 very fortunate. And the question, of course, is that when, you know, what do you do with that fortune, with that fortunate circumstance? You try to do the best. And you try to help people as much as you possibly can. And you build trust, and you promote those values which are more important now than ever before, which is what you're doing all the time. You promote those values of decency and respect and caring and integrity and trust and honesty. Values, by the way, that we don't see our leadership today promoting, but we've got to promote them, because that's what is humane. That's what's important. How we work together, how we relate together, how we respect each other, how we're tolerant of each other. We are living in a world of intolerance, to some extent hate, disunity. That won't last as long as good people advocate for the opposite. Over time, it will improve, because you have to have hope. Just like people in the dire circumstances that you're trying to help, every single one of them, I believe, has hope. That's how they survive. Hope. You remove the shackles, and that hope sprouts. And that's what you're doing.
You know, you're mentioning hope, and we need to have pathways to be able to have hope. And that's what we're trying to do here, is bridging organizations, the community, to offer that hope. And so just thankful for everybody being here.
Yeah, you know, we're all interdependent. You know, we're all part of one link on a chain. When there is a bad link on the chain is not as strong. So we're all part of a human chain. So everybody you conversed to do what you're focused on, you're strengthening those links in that chain. And when you do that, you build that sense of continuous community, which is strong. This is why I'm an optimist, because, you know, people will follow people who are optimistic. Very few people follow a skeptic or somebody who believes that tomorrow is always going to be worse than today. You got to promote that sense of positivity. That's what inspires people. Positive attitude, positive action, positive behaviors. That's what people follow. Despite how difficult it might be in circumstances, but that continuous optimism is what helps communities grow.
He's a busy guy, so we're really appreciative that he's here.
No, I mean, my wife just got out of the hospital, so no, that's my sister in Ireland. Probably calling up saying, "You're talking too long, just shut up and move on."
So, you're pretty humble in just talking about your beginnings and how you got to here. You've received so many awards that have displayed your leadership and kind of what you've done with the opportunity of the influence that you have. What would you challenge those of us that may not have that same platform? How would you challenge us to make a difference?
Well, everybody has a platform. Platforms can be small, short, large, but everybody has a platform. Anytime you express positivity and optimism and what's good about the world and what you can do to improve it, you're inspiring a group of people around you. Sometimes the audience is small, handful, your family, your neighbors. Sometimes it's 1,000 people in an auditorium. But basically, the philosophy is basically the same. When you're fortunate enough to get into positions like I've been fortunate enough to be in, obviously the audiences can be bigger, therefore the obligation is also getting bigger. I believe right now there are so many CEOs around the country in all industries who are afraid to speak up, who are afraid to talk, who are afraid to express what I know many of them believe in. That's a form of cowardice. They're not meeting the obligations that they have as a leader to talk about that which is going to make the community better. So don't be diminished in your goal by the fact that your platform is small. Because every large thing is the result of the accumulation of a multitude of small things. There's no big one fix to anything. It's the combination of all the little things that pile up to make the big thing possible.
Yeah, that's very true. Sometimes we think things are complicated and we need to just focus on maybe just doing the next right thing. Yeah. We would love to talk longer, but I know that we're short on time. And I know that in a couple of months you're going to be having a planned step down as CEO. Just wondering, are you going to have any cycling in your future? Just asking for a friend.
Well, as I was sitting outside talking to people, I used cycle one time. Who knows? Everything is possible. I was a top athlete at one time. I did play top level sports. I won national championships in Ireland in sports. I used to go back and forth to play. I was a gym rat. But because of the sports I played, I've had 9 orthopedic surgeries.
Wow.
So I've had, not that you care to hear, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I've had 2 back surgeries, 3 shoulder surgeries, 2 jaw surgeries, 2 knee surgeries, etc. So given that, I'm moving around pretty well.
I think so, yeah.
But it's probably easier to cycle than it is to walk or run. So who the heck knows? But no, all I would say to everybody here is that just feel great about what you're doing, despite all of the crap that is around you. Remember, you're doing what's good. And every time you do it, you inspire the person next to you to think about doing the same thing. That's your platform.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Let's give it up for Michael Dowling.
Thank you.
So I am an unannounced special guest. Woo woo. And I just was honored to be asked to share a few words. So most of you have no clue who I am. Mr. Dowling invited me up to be a part of his leadership event a couple weeks ago. And I had the honor of speaking for the doctors and executives that were there. And at that time, Sandeep and Santosh said, hey, we're doing cycling for change, and will you be a part of it? I'm like, oh my God, I just did a triathlon. I would love it. And what happened in that moment is I got to see Michael share some comments up on the stage of just, you got a little snippet of what he said today of hope and resilience and grit and the courage to stand up, to speak up. And when I learned more about the mission of Cycling for Change, and I did my own research, like I live in Atlanta, and I know that Atlanta is the hub globally for human trafficking, right? And I see the posters on the wall, and when I go into the women's bathroom, there are the things, plastered. If you are a victim, here's a number you can call, right? Less than 1% of victims are ever rescued from human trafficking. Over 60% of kids that go into human trafficking are from our own foster care system. So when you said a moment ago, Michael, that when your audience gets larger, your responsibility gets larger, that's why I'm standing here right now. And that is what I believe is why we are in this room together right now, because we all understand the responsibility and opportunity that we have to not just stay silent, but to actually do something and take action and fill that gap with guts and courage and move forward, because our friends are depending on us. So let's go cycle for change. Yes. Oh. Who are you? She's like, what's your name? I'm not Santosh's wife. So I always tell her to say, he is Raj's husband, right? So I am Vernice Flygirl Armour. I flew attack helicopters in the United States Marine Corps. I served 2 tours in Iraq, and I became America's first black female combat pilot. Thank you. Wow. You're not supposed to make Marines cry. All right. And with saying that, it was an honor to serve. You were worth it. And in times like these, I remember with liberty and justice for
This is true leadership at its best. As you can tell, Santosh has a way of galvanizing folks and bringing people together. Vernice, all the way from Atlanta, thank you so much, and everything you've done for our country. Thank you for your service. Thank you. I have the amazing opportunity to introduce Laura up here. Laura, would you mind taking the podium? Let's hear it for Laura.
I don't know if this moves, but I usually am up front door with it in my hand. But anyways, so I'm only going to be up here a second. I wanted to introduce our panelists today, and I'll explain why I chose these individuals a little bit later, but I will tell you that each person has been a part of my life in some way from beginning of my survivorship till now. So I would like to introduce Faridi Castillo. She is the co-founder of ECLI Vibes. Woo! And then we have, he's technically retired, but he's still out. So we have Sergeant Murphy, who started the Suffolk County Anti-Trafficking Initiative. And we also have Erin Williamson, the sergeant for the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office SAT, their trafficking program. And now I'm going to pass it back to Sandeep. I know I'm screaming. I always scream, and I will have no voice later.
Let's hear it for Laura. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedules for being here. If you wouldn't mind, you could introduce yourself formally. I know Laura shouted it out to everybody, so thank you, Laura. But if you could introduce yourself formally to everybody, and I think most importantly, if we could start off by you sharing why you felt it was important to be here today in Syosset this morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for coming out on a Saturday morning and taking the time to support this initiative. My name is Erin Minkle. I work with the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office. I've been there 25 years, and in 2018, I was asked by some of the administrators to begin looking into human trafficking and how the Sheriff's Office can combat that crime and help the victims and survivors using the tools that we have from within the correctional facilities. So I was fortunate enough to meet and begin working with Sergeant Murphy and Fetty from ECLI Vibes, and who taught me a lot about human trafficking and a lot about the population that it was affecting, and how really taught me what I can do, and the investigators that work with the Sheriff's Office, what we can do on our part to help break the cycle and help the people that are involved in it, and do what we can to give them the tools so that they can get on the path to, living a better life for themselves.
Great, thank you. Let's clap it out for you. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is James Murphy. I am a retired detective sergeant with the Suffolk County Police Department. I retired 2 years ago. I served for 34 years. I was blessed the last 6 years to run the Human Trafficking Investigations Unit. That unit started as an idea between myself and my lieutenant, Frank Masana. We started looking into what the problem was in the county because we had no idea. And in digging to find out what was going on, we started doing and conducting interviews. And what we found was heartbreaking and almost devastating, that we were on the front line and we had no idea what was going on in our own communities. So when you ask why I think it's important to be here, when we discovered that we didn't know, I knew right there that our community had no idea what's been going on in their neighborhood. So Frank and I had conducted in those 6 years 150, a little over, presentations about human trafficking awareness, whether that was to other police officers, churches, community groups, schools, because we not only needed to make a partnership with other law enforcement and advocates, we needed a partnership with the community. And all I asked from the community was just be aware, because that alone will help us succeed.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here today. Fetty.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fetty, like confetti or fettuccine. I am a co-founder of ECLI Vibes. I started it in 2015, back when I was really young and a little crazy, because to start a nonprofit, you have to be okay with being really broke. And for 2 years, probably 2.5 years, my co-founders and I, we were not getting paid to do this work. And around that time is when I met these lovely folks. And even prior to that, I had been doing the work on the front lines, direct service, for a really long time, and I kept trying to yell it on the rooftops that this was an issue in Suffolk County, and people just looked at me like I was crazy, right? Because anyone here knows, right, starting in a new initiative, everyone kind of, it's either they're going to believe in you and they're in, or they just are not about it. And a lot of folks did not think it was an issue in Suffolk County specifically. The reason why I think it's so important to be here, by the way, on my only day off at 9 o'clock in the morning, is I've dedicated my entire life to this. From doing the direct service to now more on the administrative side, because we went from a 3-person agency to 50 overnight. And it was a beautiful growth. And now with so much more capacity to really address this issue, not even from an intervention standpoint, but from a preventative one.
Wow, thank you so much for being here, Fetty. Appreciate it. So it's interesting, all three of you in your introductions, you talked about how there was an enlightening moment of awareness, that someone took a moment to speak to you about this, to bring some life to this conversation that was hidden in the corners. We have a very diverse group of individuals here, stemming from healthcare, from law enforcement, community members, family members. Can you shed some light on what human trafficking looks like in Long Island?
Sure, I'll start. Surprisingly, when we started the initiative, we actually had police officers going out and trying to ID and find people that were stuck in this life and bring them to us so we can interview them to find out what it looked like in Suffolk County. And amazingly, everyone that was approached agreed to voluntarily come in to be interviewed, which I was astonished by. They actually wanted to tell their story. So when they came in, they saw us sitting down and asking them, what's going on in your life? Are you okay? And that changed the whole story, because nobody in their life or their circle ever did that. And what we found out was 90% of the people that came in to be interviewed were born and raised in Suffolk County, which I never would have guessed. And then we came up with about 85, 88% of the people that we interviewed had a very similar story, that they were raped or molested before the age of 12 in their own household. That was the wake-up call, that we knew that this problem was so much bigger than we imagined. There is no, I'm not going to arrest my way out of this. You know, in narcotics, we get a dealer and we lock him up, and we never look at the users. We just left 80 users out there that are going to find a different dealer. We did not want that. We decided that our goal wasn't to lock up traffickers, although that would happen. It was to be a part of a support system, because we couldn't do it all. We had people out there that were suffering from multiple trauma. They were vulnerable, and they were given into all this manipulation, force, coercion. They had no way out. We wanted to be that way out, and that's when we reached out to FEDI and made a partnership with ECLI. We made a partnership with the sheriffs. So the idea of sex trafficking in Suffolk County was totally different than what we envisioned. They came from every neighborhood in Suffolk County, whether it was on the South Shore, the North Shore, affluent, below the poverty line. It didn't matter. They came from every neighborhood. That means that sexual abuse before the age of 12 is going on in every community in Suffolk County. That's where the problem starts. And if we can ID these vulnerable victims that are being hurt inside their own house, I'll never see them when they're 17, 18 years old, because we'll get them on a better path. We'll start helping them. So that really, it just morphed into something more than, oh, we got to find these traffickers. And even though we had a goal to try and ID and help these victims on the street, by the time I retired, we locked up over 80 traffickers. So even though that wasn't our goal, it worked.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, it sounds like a journey that was really deep-stewed in humanism, right? Like, you would think law enforcement is about arresting folks and getting people into the jails. However, what you've just described was really looking at the individuals for who they were, and then in turn, obviously, arresting folks and getting people to where they need to be. Fedi, so part of this experience that we just heard was reaching out to you. You guys are a community-based organization, working not only with law enforcement, but so many other community-based organizations and healthcare systems. What does this system look like now? Is there a system, and what does it look like?
There was no system when I started. Then I met amazing people along the way. Santosh being one of them, Sergeant Murphy, Aaron, I mean, I love these folks because it wasn't until we joined forces that people started to listen and pay attention. When it was just me, I wasn't enough, right? But I somehow got them to believe, so I did something, I guess. The system that we created started in 2017, which is now called the Suffolk County Anti-Trafficking Initiative, which is a task force that was created where we brought 30-plus partners to the table. ECLI co-founded it alongside Suffolk County PD, but our Northwell partners, our Suffolk County Sheriff's partners, they are integral. And they show up every single meeting. They're there I talk to them more than I talk to my family at this point, because we're consistently communicating about what's happening, either with a survivor, something happening in the community, how we're addressing it completely and holistically, not just as a law enforcement response, but as a community one. That is what happens when people come together who are passionate about an issue. They make real change. And I can tell you firsthand, and the survivors we worked with for years can tell you firsthand, that it is the care that our sergeant had, that our police officers had within the unit, with the detectives that were in that unit, the way that they would ask the questions made people want to tell their stories. I've never seen anything like it, where our survivors will call them to tell them how well they're doing now. That's the relationship they created. Yeah. We have women who re-entered back into the community after incarceration and who have met, Sergeant Munkle and where's Kelly? Where is she at? Right there, right? And they literally will call and check in on them with them. Like prior inmates are now checking in, right, and just saying like how well they're doing or if they need help. And I'm like, the connection that we've made with people, that they can think about us even after they're re-entering the community, after hitting certain systems, that essentially is the impact that the relationships that we're creating is making. This is a long game, I always say this is a long game. When someone is in the life, it takes them a really long time to get to a place where they're ready to come out. And none of us are rushing them. And that's the beauty of it. We show up, we treat them like we care because we actually do, and then we wait for them to tell us what's next. And then we help them as they come along. But that is also giving them their voice back, their power back, after it's been stripped from them probably their entire life. This is why if people want to get involved, we have to understand it is literally a long game. We're not seeing substantial change within 6 months. This takes years. And I have seen miracles in years. You want to know the true testament of why I believe in God? It is literally human resilience. That you can go through the most horrific experiences of your life and still choose to be someone else despite all of it. I've seen it over and over again, things that should have killed people, stuff that should have completely just, I don't even know. You would think someone could not come back from. That is, my faith is in that because I've seen it over and over again. And honestly, it's a testament to not just the people up here, but even within the task force, our partnerships, and the impact it's making.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. You said so eloquently that you've seen so many miracles, but I think this case study that we're hearing right now about this collaboration and building a system, I actually think that you've created many miracles, and thank you for that, because people don't have hope. I know it sounds really weird to hear it, but I can say whatever I want. I have a mic in my hand. That's all I'm going to say. Sergeant Minkle, so we've already heard from your two colleagues up here about the human element. You have a very unique position. You interact with folks that have been incarcerated. Can you shed some light on what misconceptions there are about human trafficking that you've learned from individuals that you've been interacting with through work, as well as out in the community?
Well, I guess as far as what misconceptions, I think a lot of the community members don't realize, like I know Sergeant Murphy had mentioned earlier, that all of this is going on right in our backyards. You know, a lot of people automatically just think it's people crammed in vans, crossing borders, and, you know, we see the high-profile cases and things like that on the TV, but they don't realize that it's going on everywhere, everywhere in the county, everywhere on Long Island. I know, you know, you've mentioned many times, it's pretty much, you've been in every hotel, right, across Long Island. So I don't really think that the community realizes how, you know, where it's going on. But we do have a unique, we're in a unique position because, you know, we work in the correctional facilities, and we know that the people come in and they're serving time for other crimes that they may have committed, but I am fortunate enough that the investigators that work in the unit, they do actually care. They want to hear the stories, you know, because they want to help that person get out of the situation that they're in. And we genuinely want to see everyone succeed. So, you know, we are, again, fortunate enough to, everyone that's in the task force, I think, has the same mentality where they genuinely want to see these individuals succeed. So we do what we can. We listen to their stories. We try to find out what they might need at that time, and then we reach out to all our partners that is in that are on the task force with us. And we can't. No agency can do it alone. No one can do it alone. We have to lean on each other. And I am, you know, the people that get out, we do still keep in touch with them. I'm so excited to hear when someone's doing well, you know, and we went to a drug court graduation recently of someone who's been a year clean, and I'm excited to see, you know, these people doing well. And the more we work together, the more situations like that we can see, you know, so.
I'm in awe just thinking about how much hopelessness there is out there, and just the privilege people may have by interacting with either the three of you or your tributaries, because it seems like you're really focused on trying to do the right thing by somebody that probably feels very disenfranchised and that no one has stepped up and helped them before. And that's really powerful. How do you convey this to your teams, like new team members that are coming on? Are you hand-selecting team members to be part of this amazing community that you built, or do you think this is like an organic thing that just happens?
No, it's definitely not organic. We were fortunate when we built our unit that we had administration that really supported us and backed us up. And Frank Messana, the lieutenant, and I were able to handpick each investigator that came into the office. You need empathy and understanding. If you don't have that, you don't belong in the office. We don't have a 3 strikes and you're out rule. If we're trying to help somebody and they fall, we offer a hand. They're going to fall again, we offer a hand. Fall again, we offer a hand. That's what we do. And I needed that specific mold in an investigator that would have that patience and also understand that we're not asking questions like we normally do. In the police department, we're trying to solve a crime. It's who, what, where, when. We don't ask those questions. We ask, how are you? What can I do for you? What do you need? You mentioned something, hopelessness. And that was something that amazed me, was one of our interviews. I asked this girl, what are your dreams? What are your hopes? And she just stared at me. And that's when I realized that was a dumb question. She doesn't even have hope. She can't even dream for herself. She doesn't dream about tomorrow. She's trying to survive the next hour. And these are the things that I conveyed to investigators that were coming into the unit. This is what we're going to deal with. This is what we're going to see. And if you're not up to the task, find a different job. And we handpicked, I think, the best of the best that worked in this unit. without a doubt. Going back to your misconception, I think a big misconception, and by the time I retired, we identified over 400 people that were in the life in Suffolk County alone. Most of them having been interviewed. Not one said they were doing this because they wanted to. Not one wanted this for anybody else. A lot of people think, oh, she's making her own choice. He's making her own choice. That's what they do. It's not what they want to do. They were either forced into it, now they're addicted to drugs, they have no way out. They don't want to do it. So the biggest misconception that I've seen, and I see it all over the place, even with police officers, well, why are we helping her? She's making her own decisions. No, she's not. She stopped making her own decisions when she was raped when she was 9 years old.
Yeah, that whole societal judgment that we throw on people that may be in a different situation than we are currently. I mean, we see this in healthcare a lot. We see it with obesity, with substance use disorders, with behavioral health. There's no shortage of shame and guilt that is thrown at somebody. But yet, to your point, it does take a skillful eye and a skillful heart to understand the power we have in terms of changing that conversation and changing the trajectory of that conversation. Fedi, can you talk a little bit about, just for awareness purposes, right? I mean, when we talk about human trafficking, the first thing folks think about, one, is trafficking, so meaning like crossing borders and on the back of a van, as you mentioned, but it's happening in our backyard. But also, folks really hyper-focus on sex trafficking. What are the other domains of trafficking that people need to know about?
It's a great question. We have I don't know if it's growing or maybe we were never paying attention. I'll be honest with you. Labor trafficking is a huge issue in Suffolk County. But again, similarly to when we started the sex trafficking work, there were no systems in place to address it. I can tell you it's the same thing with labor trafficking. We are working really hard in the task force to create the systems to even address the issue to begin with. I can tell you in Suffolk County, I don't think anyone's doing that work yet. And the issue with labor trafficking is that there's a lot of correlation between sex and labor trafficking. One can lead to the other very easily. And so if we were paying attention to both, maybe we could actually be reducing the issue in some way, shape, or form. But that is definitely one that is a huge growing trend in Suffolk County.
And we're hearing a lot about Suffolk. Obviously, you're all based in Suffolk, but we're currently sitting in Nassau, and we're not too far away from the border of Queens and the 5 boroughs. My assumption is this happens everywhere. It's just that you guys have a very strong understanding of what's happening in Suffolk.
It's so funny because when I say Suffolk County, I speak on Suffolk County, but the reality is that all of our people are in Nassau City and then back. And then they're in Jersey, and then they're in Connecticut, and then they're in North Carolina, and then they're back. And then they're in Nassau again, and then they're Suffolk, and then it doesn't, we see county lines, in terms of our communities. I don't even see state lines at this point because I know that this is happening everywhere, and it's not an isolated situation, and every community is affected by it. I mean, one of the things that Aaron had mentioned is it's happening in every single hotel and motel room in Suffolk County. That is not also somehow not going to cross over into Nassau. Like, that's not a thing, right? So if it's happening there, it's definitely happening also in Nassau. And I could probably name you a couple in Nassau off the top of my head, but I won't. I'm just saying.
I'll add to that, and kudos to my administration in Suffolk County, because the stats for sex trafficking has gone through the roof in the last 7 years. Why? Because we did the investigation and we made the arrest. And usually the arrest comes with 15, 20 charges. If we didn't do that investigation, those charges wouldn't be there, that arrest wouldn't be there. There's no 911 call. We're generating these stats. So if we sat quiet and didn't do anything, it looks like there's no sex trafficking in Suffolk County. So maybe other jurisdictions don't want those stats. My administration, when we started this, the chief of detectives told me, if we have one victim, that's one victim too many. Go find them. That's how Suffolk County ran.
That's great leadership. So, the standing idly by, being silent, we're very accustomed to this I would say, in healthcare, in law enforcement, even out in the community. It's easier sometimes to turn a blind eye and not open up Pandora's box. However, you all three, and even myself and many in this room, have seen the value of really bringing voices out, meaning the voice of the survivor. And I know we had a pre-call to discuss today's panel, and each one of you reflected on the power that has been added to the equation by allowing survivors to be part of your process, to inform your process, as well as to validate your process. So if each one of you wouldn't mind just sharing the value that you feel of encouraging folks to speak out, to be proud, and to help support the next person that may be struggling.
I'm gonna give you a quick story, try to make it really short. Back when I was in my undergrad, I started to volunteer for a suicide crisis hotline. I was really young. And, but one of the things that I started to notice as a pattern on those phone calls were people who picked up the phone because they had no one else to talk to. And I used to get phone calls of people just telling me what they did that day because they literally had no one else to share it with. When I tell you that disconnection is essentially what drives most of the issues that we see in our community, I am not kidding. Most folks have no one to turn to. And that should be a crime in itself because where there's so many humans on this planet, how are we not connecting with one another? But that disconnection is essentially what robs, steals hope. When we were talking about hope before, when there is no hope, you bring the hope. That is your job. And I don't care if that is your job in this field, if you're interested in sex trafficking work, I don't care what system you're in or where you could do this within your own family system. You bring the hope. Wherever you go, you bring the hope. Because we are seriously a society that is growing in hopelessness. And I can't handle it because we can't do it alone. I need everyone in every system to care enough to bring the hope. And when I tell you care, just ask the questions. When you're walking, if you're a nurse and you're walking into a hospital room, just check in. How are you doing? If you are law enforcement and you're out in the community and you see someone that is clearly not okay, just ask the question. There are so many spaces that we occupy that we could be making substantial differences, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with someone who is being sex trafficked. Because the connection that you make with another human being could be what prevents that from happening. I tell this to people all the time. The connection that you have with your children now is what's going to prevent someone else connecting with them and then using and abusing them and manipulating and exploiting them. The connection that we make with our children now is essentially the preventative work that we're doing for later. Caring about another human being is literally our job as human beings. You can argue with me all day long on that if you want. I'm not budging. I think that is why we are here.
So you mentioned survivors. I think the most productive presentations that I've given is when survivors come on the stage with me. I always say that 6 years in human trafficking was the most heartbreaking and depressing unit I've ever worked in, but it was also the most rewarding. And I can tell you stories that were told to me. I can tell you what I witnessed, but when a survivor tells you firsthand what he or she went through, if we have somebody that's being abused in the room listening, they may be relating to what I'm saying, but they see a living example next to me, and what they see is hope. Maybe I can be that survivor. Maybe I can be on stage helping others. So I think it was the most productive because there had to be people in the audience. We went out to Hofstra, we had over 1,000 people in that auditorium. There is no doubt we had sex abuse victims in that audience. And hopefully they saw success sitting next to me. So I can talk all day about what I've seen or what I heard, but when you see somebody successful like Laura doing what she's doing, that's inspiration. That's hope.
I just want to add a quick example to that as well, because I was thinking the exact same thing that you said. So we used to, in the facility, and which we have to do again, by the way. Laura, you're coming too. We used to do seminars for the incarcerated women to teach them about human trafficking, because a lot of times they don't even realize that the situation they're in, that's what they're involved in, you know, so they don't even realize. And we would bring Fetty's group in, Sergeant Murphy would come in, somebody from the DA's office, and you all see how great speakers they are, right? But you're exactly right. Nothing resonated with the individuals until we brought a survivor in, and they were able to see, like, oh, I remember her. Like, she was in the housing area that I was in, and now she has a job and she's doing great. And that is as great of things that you guys say and the points that you make. Nothing really sunk in with them as much as them seeing someone who made it out and is successful. So the survivors play a huge role, and that also is what brings the hope, you know? I totally agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah, I mean, there is no doubt that there are survivors in this room right now who are looking at the three of you and yet again feeling energized and hopeful about what they do for others, but also looking at you as examples and models. And you know, Mr. Dowling said it earlier, we have an obligation to breathe life into hope, or breathe hope into life. The three of you are saying the same exact thing, and it's just so interesting because I don't believe, and this is an assumption of mine, that they taught you this in the police academy, that they taught you this in your sheriff's academy, or they taught you this. They didn't teach us this in medical school either. But it's interesting that we're all coming to this conclusion now, so many years into whatever we do, that human element is so important. So you know, and you've heard Dr. Paula say this, and it's part of Cycling for Change about sending hopeful messages. If you can leave us all with a hopeful message of yours, what gives you hope, or a message that you would like to share with somebody else in this room right now, that they can then go out and amplify to somebody else, what would be that hopeful message?
Connection is prevention.
Can you say that again really loud into the mic?
Connection is prevention.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thought that always comes to my mind is when I brought, I can't even say she's a survivor because she was still in the middle of it, I brought her to a school district to sit down with some counselors and some therapists. And the idea was she was going to explain what it was like for her going through high school. When she was in 9th and 10th grade, she was in the life and still going to school. And she was explaining what her life was like in school, in the hopes that these counselors might be able to see somebody like her in the school. And her biggest thing was that not one counselor, not one teacher, not one principal, nobody took her aside and asked her if she was okay. She hadn't taken a shower in weeks, and she knew she stunk. I mistakenly thought, well, was that because you were depressed? She said, no, I didn't want the men that were taking advantage of me to be attracted to me. That's how bad it was in high school, and nobody asked her if she was okay. From that moment on, I knew that was the question that we should be asking. Are you okay? She looked at me, she said, Sarge, if a teacher took me aside and said that, the floodgates would have opened, I would have told them everything, the police would have been there, and they would have locked up my trafficker. Are you okay? Why didn't she tell anybody? She didn't think anybody cared. And you know what? I don't know if they did.
What I would say is, and I know it was talked about earlier, don't get, I would say everyone could do something little. Don't get, don't, maybe talk yourself out of, oh, well, I can't do something significant enough. So every little thing that someone does that's positive is helpful, so just do the little things, and that will go a long way. That's what I would say, take away from it.
I think that's great advice, right? You got to start small, you got to start somewhere, but what I'm gathering, you got to start.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you have to just start. Folks, can we please give it up for our panelists? And I'm going to ask Laura to come back up here. Let's hear it for Laura, by the way, to put together this panel.
Oh, thank you. What a great conversation, and thank you all so much for joining us here today. I mentioned earlier that there was a reason why I picked the three of you. So in 3 minutes, I'm going to try to explain my life story and why I picked them. No, not really, but a synopsis. So while I was incarcerated, when I got incarcerated, when first getting out of the life, Kelly and Erin were there, and they were calling me down quite frequently to ask me what's going on, are you being trafficked, et cetera, and I lied. And I lied every time because I didn't know if I could trust them. I have law enforcement asking me questions, and to me, that was scarier. You have me here and I'm in jail. I'm gonna, I don't know, tell them something that's gonna incriminate me more. I don't know. So no, I never said. And then I met Fetty and ECLI Vibes, and they were coming into the jail at the time. And when I first met somebody from the organization, and she looked at me, and her face turned beet red, and she started immediately tearing up. And I'm like, why is this lady crying? I don't even know her. But it was because she knew of my family. She knew of everything we had gone through, and she knew that something was wrong, right? So it was through the conversations and getting to know her that I decided, I'm just going to pour my heart out to this lady. I have nothing else to do. I'm here anyway, right? And that's what I began to do. And then we started which I'm the co-founder of, the Survivor Advisory Board through ECLI Vibes, and I met the Sarge, the Murph, I call him. And I met the Murph, and oh my gosh, he put humanity into these people that I thought were just out to lock me up. He put this care in his eyes and this genuineness when speaking about individuals that he was working with, that I was like, oh my gosh, he's not lying, and he's not trying to lock anybody up. He's not going to try to lock me up. We're going to speak at the jail was the first time. And I'm like, wait, no, he's not going to lock me up. But it was like a full circle moment for me, because when I did go to speak back at the jail, these people were all there, and all played a huge part in my healing process and for me to be able to stand up here today. So it was the community and it was the collaboration that allows me to be the person that I am today, alongside a bunch of other things ECLI has done for me, including hiring my son, helping me get my first apartment, creating the Survivor Advisory Board with me, and listening to me whine and complain every day in the office. But I'm complaining about my work, but who doesn't complain about work, right? But I love the work that I do. I love all the spaces that I am. But again, I could not be up here today if it wasn't for these individuals, if it wasn't for the community coming together, if it wasn't for the Dr. P's, if it wasn't for the Northwell House and EAC, and we have Restore here, Access Church, everybody that's here today, PAX USA. If it wasn't for all of these people, we wouldn't be here today. Our survivors wouldn't be able to use our voices, and we would still be lost in the cracks. So in everybody's hand, and you guys get some, You have red sand. Do not eat it. It's sand. Right? So what this sand is for is it's a campaign by Modern Day Slavery, and the red sand is going to be used as a social media campaign for the ending of this tour, and it's something to keep you guys going with the momentum throughout the day today or tomorrow, whenever. Get your family, tell your friends, and you're going to just take this sand and you're going to pour the sand into a crack. And as you're filling that crack, it's a remembrance of the individuals who are still out there sick and suffering, and that we cannot forget about them. We as a community cannot forget about the people that are still there and that need us, and that's why today is so important. We need, so that we can come together and we can help those, like I was helped by all of these individuals up here today on this stage. So thank you everybody very much, and you guys can send your photos and pictures into the email. We didn't get that far yet, but we'll let you know. But thank you so much for being here, and let's have a great day.
The memory came like an unexpected gust of wind, whisking me back to another place and time. I found myself standing at the base of a mountain, its jagged peaks scratching at the heavens. The enormity of the task before me loomed like a dark cloud, casting shadows over what little resolve I had left. "We're moving at your pace, Jenna. Safety first," Chelsea said, her eyes fixed on the bend in the trail ahead. I swallowed hard, trying to silence the voice inside my head that echoed my self-doubt. How can I do this? I don't belong here. I'm not strong enough. The weight of my backpack dug into my shoulders, and I could feel the cold grip of fear curling around my heart. But I couldn't let that fear win. Not again. "Let's go," I whispered, steeling myself for the journey ahead. As I took my first step onto the rocky path, each crunch of gravel beneath my feet reverberated through my body, reminding me of the distance between where I stood and where I wanted to be. Somehow, that mountain represented everything I had fought against. The pain, the exploitation, the seemingly insurmountable obstacles that had left me so broken. Chelsea's voice lifted me, giving me strength. "You're a fighter, Jenner. Don't forget that." Her words reverberated through the years, drawing me back to the present moment where the applause had reached its peak. I took a deep breath, pulling in courage and releasing fear. I let my eyes sweep slowly across the room, sensing the mood, and feeling a cold draft above my head, a subtle reminder of the mountain I had climbed. The frigid mountain air bit into my exposed cheeks as I stood at the base of the steep slope, gazing up at the formidable peak that pierced the sky. A mixture of awe and dread turned inside me, fueled by the enormity of the challenge before me. I clenched my jaw, staring defiantly at the mountain. The wind swirled around us, sending a chill down my spine. "Come on," I said, brushing off the doubts that threatened to consume me. "We've got a long way to go." With each step, I fought to silence the nagging voice in my head, focusing instead on the steady rhythm of our boots crunching against the rocky path. Between breaths, Chelsea found the strength to encourage me as we climbed higher and higher. "I can't believe how much progress we're making," she said. "Me neither," I responded, with a tight smile wiping sweat from my brow. In this moment, the mountain became more than just a physical barrier. It symbolized every obstacle I had faced and overcome, both within myself and in the world around me. Chelsea's unwavering support and newfound resolve pushed me forward, propelling me upward through the treacherous terrain. The fear that had once threatened to paralyze me now fueled my determination to reach the summit, proving to myself and the world what I was truly capable of. Almost there, Chelsea encouraged as we approached the peak just a bit further. With one final push, we crested the summit, and the sight that took my breath away. The world unfurled beneath us like a vast, untamed landscape, a testament to the boundless beauty and resilience of nature. And it was a moment of pure, unadulterated freedom, a triumph over both internal and external demons. Thank you, I whispered to Chelsea, tears welling up in my eyes as I gazed at the panorama before us, for believing in me when I couldn't. Jenna, she replied softly, her voice thick with emotion. You've always been strong enough. You just needed to see it for yourself. That day, standing atop the mountain we had conquered together, I finally began to understand the truth of her words. And though the climb was far from easy, it set me on a path toward self-discovery, truth, ultimately the freedom to be who I was meant to be. The piercing glare of the stage, lights flooded my vision as I stepped tentatively onto the platform. A collective hush fell over the auditorium, sending a shiver down my spine. Every eye was on me, expectant, waiting. I began, my voice wavering slightly as I gripped the edges of the podium. The wooden surface felt rough beneath my fingers, anchoring me to the moment. I got right to the point. I remember the last time I was sold. I was so young and innocent, I didn't know you could be raped the way that I was. I hesitated, taking a deep breath to steady myself. 17 years ago, at the age of 18, I found myself caught in the web of a man named Greg. I continued, my voice growing stronger with each word. His charming facade hid a darkness that would come to consume me, a cycle of manipulation and abuse that left me questioning my own worth. I paused, allowing the weight of my words to sink in. But this is not a tale of despair, I added softly. It's a story of hope, of learning to trust in myself and finding the courage to fight back against the pain he inflicted. I'm Jenna, and I'm so honored to serve on the board for Cycling for Change and to work with the incredible team to do impactful work that will really help change a victim's life. When a community comes around a victim, that's when they become a survivor, and with continued support, a survivor leader. Santosh and Raj, and to the entire team, it's an honor to serve with you, but you've also been a huge impact on my healing journey, and I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
Jenna, that was absolutely beautiful. You took the book. I want to take the book from you. Jeremiah, can you just pass that over really quickly? So, Grit and Grace by Jenna McKay. We have them outside. Jenna's more than happy to autograph them and give a personal message. But thank you so much for sharing your words as well as sharing your journey with us. We really do appreciate you very much. Thank you. We'll clap it out for you. So we heard from our panelists about how important survivors' voices are. We've heard how much awareness building is a critical, I would say, obligation of ours. I want to take the moment to introduce all of you to Dr. William Gerhardt, who also has penned a book, a children's book. And if you wouldn't mind coming up here, I know you're going to read an excerpt as well. So, oh, you're not? Okay. Oh, you're not reading? Yeah, you can't read it. Okay. All right. Well, let's hear it for Dr. Gerhardt, please. Thank you.
So, Santosh, you didn't tell me who I was going to follow. Thanks a lot. How do I explain who I am? So I'm a son, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and then I'm a pediatrician, and I'm a medical director of the Northwell Family Health Center at Huntington, and as of 2 weeks ago, also another one in Bayshore. The health center used to be called the Dolan Family Health Center, and people know us as that. What I'm going to talk about is really trivial compared to everything that everybody said. You made me follow a CEO, a sergeant, God. So before I do this part, I'm going to say how I met Santosh, and I'm going to make it nice. I left the private practice to go to what was then Dolan. They made me the director of pediatrics. I didn't even know if I could do that. And I trained residents when I got there because that's what they wanted me to do. That's kind of when I met Santosh. So about probably 20 years ago, I guess, right? Whatever. He came to me after he became who he is and said, you know, I'm going to start up this human trafficking thing, and I'm going to get people educated. So I got involved in getting educated, and it was rewarding, and it was entertaining, and it was terrific. But I also knew where I worked. Right after completing that education he put me through, we found our first trafficked person. And it was a young mother and their child, and we kind of said, whoa, we know we got it. So we gave them a safe place. I left the room to have them be on their own and be able to compose themselves. After they let me know what was going on, I called him, I called social workers, I got everybody involved, and it was a really nice young mother and her child, and I really admired them. And we had an Uber pick them up and bring them into the city. The next day, I got a phone call from where they were. I wasn't sure where they were, and said, you have to release your medical records. And I've never seen those people again, but I do know they were saved. That led me to realize that this was going on a lot in my building for years. So when I first got there, before I even knew Santosh, I met a little girl, 12 years old, who came to us and told us through a lot of verbiage, we figured out that she was sexually abused, living in a house locally to the practice, and it came out over a period of a long time that she was abused by 12 men in the same house and passed around. She was a cute little girl. We discussed it with her mother. She denied this and was pissed off at her daughter for even talking. About a week later, and she was unhappy with the daughter as she left. We felt bad. A week later, she came back, the mother, with the girl, and very different story when the mother found her in bed with the mother's boyfriend and believed it now. When, you know, medicine is what it is. We learn constantly. We're constantly learning. You find out the hard way that if a little girl becomes pregnant when they're that young, they're never going to be pregnant again. You find out that it gets inside of you, and I didn't even know you then. It gets inside of you, you feel you have to do something, and I wish I knew you then, because we did seek out the police, and I do know that we had 12 men arrested and deported. The mother and daughter are still together and still pretty messed up, but doing okay. So that was always in the back of your head. I think as a physician, you have patients that never leave you. Let's transition to something else now. The health center that I work for is an amazing place. It takes care of a community. That's what its job was to do. It takes care of people who are in need. It takes care of people who have a lot less than we do. It does it in a very non-judgmental manner. It does it with professionalism. It does it with dignity. And the patients come to the health center all are treated exactly the same, no matter who they are, where they are, what their insurance is. If you ask a doctor in my building, I have one here now, we're going to talk about her, what insurance does the patient have? They don't even know. Doesn't matter. We do it all the same. I can tell you I do that personally because I also take care of my own grandchildren in my building because that's who they trust. So my patients all get same treatment as my grandkids get. That's important. About 10 years ago, my wife, who is here, and let me preface this by saying I am a physician who got to marry the best nurse he ever worked with. I will never get her to speak in public, and I don't really like to speak in public. I've spent 20 years trying to stay under the radar, and thanks for getting me out. She woke up in the middle of the night and had a dream, and the dream was kind of cool. And she has a lot of dreams, but she never wrote one down. But she wrote this one down, and then when we all got up in the morning, she goes, I wrote this down. But she wrote it down. This is the story of how this all started. She wrote it down because my son was in school for graphic design, and she thought it would be a good project for him to showcase his work and be able to illustrate it. It's not the kind of work he ever wanted to do. It sat for about a year or two. Nothing happened, and he felt guilty, so he designed a cover for a book. That's it. 8 more years go by, nothing happened to it. And she was, I'm going to be nice, was having a milestone birthday. And I harassed my son to give me the book. It was written in, I think, pencil on 3 pages of legal pad. But it had a really good kind of vibe to it. And I said, we're going to do something. And I try to do momentous gifts for her and ones that last forever. So I said, I'm going to publish this. Had no idea how to do it, had no idea what to do, but figured, let's figure it out. So I spent a few months, and I kind of gave myself a time frame because her birthday was coming up. And I arranged to hire an artist because you needed something good done. And she lives in Pakistan. That becomes significant because this is an international effort now. She drew me some things. I contacted her early in the morning, late at night because of the time difference. And we put down, we put things together, and she would send me files, and we would edit it. And I knew I had to stop then, so that I wrapped up what we had so far in a box and gave it to her on her birthday and said, your book is alive. She then got to be able to edit it with us. Never knew how complicated this really is. The artwork got done. We embedded in text. First one was Help Me Find My Hoot Hannah, which is the book that she dreamed about and we made happen for her birthday. But then we did it, and right before we published it, we said, this is a little bit bigger than what you thought. And this became a vehicle by which a pediatrician and a nurse can write a book for a kid and give a message at the end to a parent what we're trying to discuss. Each book got a little bit more involved with our message, but Help Me Find Your Hoot Hannah is about children finding their voice. If you're a doctor in Suffolk County, if you're a pediatrician, if you're a pediatrician anywhere, speech delay is common. Why is speech delay common? Because we don't read to our kids. Reading to our kids at a young age gets them to speak earlier and better. That's what the book is about, really simple thing, not a big deal. At the same time, it was really, really widely received, and at the end of the day, I work for Northwell, she works for a different health system, and we kind of competed a little bit how we could get it out to each health system and who could beat who. It sold well, it did well, and we decided right before we published it that all the proceeds of this book was going to come to the health center. The reason for that is Mr. Dowling left. Northwell is allowing this health center to stay open, the one in Huntington, with, let's call it real, over $1 million deficit every year. Why does he do that? Why did he ask us, or why did the health system ask us to make another one in Bayshore, which is now 2 weeks old? Because the work we do is important, and everybody deserves primary care, at least as a basic health care. So if we could get the donation or the proceeds of this book to go in to the health center, it would be a help. And I thought maybe this would be something that would be in perpetuity, a revenue stream to come in. I kind of got into it. My wife knows that I get obsessed easily. At the same time as she was having her dreams, I was actually writing a screenplay. And the screenplay was going to be about bullying, and it was going to be around sports, and it was kind of cool. I'm a big Rocky fan. When Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky, he wrote it in a notebook, and he sold it in a notebook. You can't do that anymore. So screenplays have to have a format. I had to learn that. It's very involved. But after I did the first book with Mary, I realized maybe this is better. So I took the concept of the screenplay and we put it into a second book. And that's Twinkle Finds Dolan's Pride. This is about bullying. So to write a book about bullying for kids to read, but at the end, the blurb is a little bit longer, what we want you to look at. Let's look at bullying in a different way. Let's not concentrate on the bullying. Let's concentrate on what you do to get around it, get past it, and move on. It's an important way to look at it. I think it's a different way to look at it, and I think it helps. And that one did pretty well, too. Then I went to... Say it again. I gotta get to the point. So then I went to a dinner through Northwell. I got to talk to Santosh again. My nurse practitioner was at the table. She was hawking my book, because she likes to hawk my book, and it was pretty cool. And he comes up to me and he says, "What are you doing?" So we talked about the book. And as I was talking to him, I said, maybe we should partner, right? Then right after that, he called me and says, let's go out to breakfast. So we thought it out and figured out what we were going to do. And as I drove away, I could see the cover of the book. As the week went on, I could figure out the title for the book. And it kind of wrote itself. So we wrote the book, and then we partnered more. I had his wife edit my work, because she's amazing at doing that. I had Santosh weigh in. He introduced me to other people. And now we have, that came out actually on Tuesday or Wednesday, it's now available, Help Keep Me From Harm, Hannah. Cover has the main character with a bicycle helmet. Where is it? Cycle for Change is on the back. There's one more edit that's going to happen. This thing's going to be bigger. But the message is stronger. The topic is good for children, but there's a lot of text in the back where we want to give a message to the parents. And I just want to say that I hope it sells like crazy, because half the proceeds of this goes to the health center, the other half goes to Cycle for Change. So to wrap this up, it's been an honor to work with Dr. Polis for as long as I've known him. He is an inspiration, and I thank you for everything you're doing, and I hope this sells like crazy for him. Thank you.
All right, so we are about 7 minutes behind schedule. However, we are going to end this with a treat. I'm going to invite the Paulus daughters to come on up here. And as they're walking up, I do have to make a couple of announcements. First and foremost, there's going to be door prizes for everyone that's been in this auditorium with us for the last hour and a half. Guys, come on up, start setting up. So you'll find, or if you're lucky enough, you'll find one of 3 bracelets that are on the back of these seats in the front, and we have 3 amazing door prizes for you. We'll do that at the end. I also want to just highlight that Mr. Dowling has also donated suite tickets for UBS Arena as well as Madison Square Garden. That's part of the raffles. There's also a couple of future events that I would like to highlight. One, next year, Cycling for Change is going to go back to putting on their golf event, so please save the date for that. As well as we have been developing, thanks to Chris in the back there and a whole nother group of folks, a podcast series that is going live, and it'll be available on all the streaming platforms. And with that said, are we ready to go, or are we missing a guitarist? I can't play guitar, so somebody's got to get up here. No, I don't. No, I don't play the guitar. All right, you're going to use this mic? You can use the podium. You could use whatever you would like, because you're Santosh's daughters. Okay, so we're going to play you out with this beautiful piece, and then we're going to try to get everybody lined up for the biking. Jeremiah? There's a lot of announcements that I'm missing over here. Let's give it up for the Paulus sisters. Let's clap it. Do you guys have an official name? All right, the Paulus sisters. Congratulations. I copyrighted.
So I'm not going to say much because everything was already so profound. And thank you for everyone who spoke up here. I just wanted to read some of the lyrics. We're going to sing Blackbird by the Beatles. And I think it just summarizes a lot of the themes that people were talking about. So the lyrics say, "Blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise."
Blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to rise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to rise. You were only waiting for this moment to rise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise.
Let's hear it for the Paula sisters. Let's hear it for them. All right, so we're going to ask everyone, take a moment as you're walking out. There's some snacks out there. There's some refreshments. Don't forget the door prize wristbands that are somewhere in this room. And raffles. This is about raising funds to support other community-based organizations, so please do the best that you can. Enjoy the run, enjoy the walk, and enjoy the ride. We'll see you for the raffles. And the basketball folks, I'm going to take you on. Let's do it.